this video clip I will show you how to work with the internal standard method in Peak Simple. Again, we need to open a suitable control file for internal standard method, and that would be typically the GC default method. So let's find that. Open control file. We just need to find it here. That would be this one, for example. Open. Yep, and then I'll just save it as something I can recognize. And I will make a new folder. It says test internal standard and GC. Oh, how did that go? Sorry, just try again. Oh, there we go. Just call it the same. Save, and as you can see we still have the default, so we need to open the control file which is saved. Oh, okay, we're ready. So again, as with external standard method, we need to create a component file, and we open one of the standards. We'll pick the one with the highest concentration. Let's see, that would be standard 5. Open. Just zoom in a little bit so we can see the peaks. So the first huge peak, that will typically be the solvent. If you have, for example, ethanol in a solvent, you can sometimes see, or you can most likely see, the ethanol before the solvent peak, but typically the first big one is the solvent peak. And then we are told that we have in our standard solutions we have para-xylene. That would be the first one, and then we have auto-xylene, and that's the internal standard, and the last one is nonane, and we're interested in determining the concentration levels of nonane and para-xylene in the unknown sample by using auto-xylene as the internal standard. But first of all, we need to create a component file. So same procedure. Add component, edit component, and this will be peak number 1. Para-xylene, and the units, we are told that that's volume percent. We just enter that. And when we work with the internal standard method, we need to tell Peak Simple how we're going to calculate. So this is peak number 1, and that's one of those that we're interested in. And we're going to use peak number 2 as the internal standard, and we need to tell Peak Simple that for peak number 1 we're going to use peak number 2 as internal standard. So we just enter 2 here. Okay. Peak number 2, add component. Oh, there seems to be a bit of an overlap, so we just correct that straight away. So edit component, and that will be peak number 2, the name. that would be auto silane. We still have volume percent, and then the code for internal standard. PeakSimple also need to know which peak is used as internal standard. So, and the code for that is 1. So in this cell next to internal standard we enter 1, and in this cell it just stays as 0. Okay, then we just need the last one, add component. We just correct time window, returns in time window, edit component, and peak number 3, and that would be no name, concentration, volume percent, and again we need to tell PeakSimple, okay, this one is calculated by using peak number 2 as internal standard. So okay, now we have our component file, and as always I'll just save it, edit, and then you choose channels and components, and here you can see in the component table that peak number 1 will be calculated by using peak number 2, and peak number 3 will also be calculated by using peak number 2, and the star next to peak number 2 says that peak number 2 is the actual internal standard. So we just save this, and I'll just call it silane and no name. Save. Okay, so now I've saved the component file as well. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to calibrate the system, or PeakSimple. So we need to pick the standard with the lowest concentration, and that would be standard 1. And you can see in standard 1 we have parasilane in 0.2 volume percent, autosilane in 0.8 volume percent, and the no-name in 0.2 volume percent. We just need to remember that. Open it. Okay, and then we need to calibrate. Same procedure. Calibrate. Just go for a new one, and again level number 1, that is always 0.0, so go for level number 2. Okay, and the concentration of this one was 0.2, and accept new, and you can see now that we're using the internal standard method. What we see here is the ratio between the area of parasilane and the area of autosilane. So that this is the ratio now, and again we need to save it. Just call it silane. We can call it P silane and no name. Save and close. And we'll just do the same for no name. We don't calibrate the autosilane because that's the internal standard. Calibrate no name. Nope. Level number 2. Okay, that was the same level. 0.2. Accept new. And oh, I forgot to choose the regression method. That is single line AX plus B. Okay, we'll just save it. It's the same. Alright, I'll just double check. If I have the right method here. Okay. we're good. So the next one, that would be standard number 2. Open. Right click, calibrate, level number 3. And it was, we can see that the concentration level of the paraxylene is 0.4. We just enter that. Accept new. Close. It automatically saves. Calibrate the no-name, level 3 for that one as well. And it's also 0.4. Accept new. And close. And you just continue doing this. So the next one in line, that will be standard number 3. Open. Right click on the peak of interest, calibrate. That will be level number 4. And the concentration is 0.6 for the paraxylene, so 0.6. Accept new, close, no name, right click, calibrate, level number 4. Okay. And here you can see the concentration of no name is 0.8. The volume 1%. Accept new, close, and we just continue with that. So now you can see I've done it for all the standards, and again you can check the statistics, and we have the slope, intercept, linearity seems good. The R squared also seems quite good, but remember, correlation coefficient, that is just R. So take the square root of this if you report any correlation coefficient, and then you have the formula as well. Okay, it seems good. And as always, I just, as safety, save it. I just call it the same. Save. Okay, so the final bit we need to do is to determine the concentration levels in an unknown sample. So let's have a look at the unknown sample. That would be this one. And you can see Peak Simple has recognized the peaks as paraxylene, autoxylene and no name. That seems good. And we can just view results. And what we can see is that the concentration level of paraxylene is 0.5 volume percent, and for the no name it's 0.7 volume percent, and it corresponds very well with the teachers list. So, end of video clip.